Good morning, everyone, and welcome to B2B Purchase webinar on World Beyond 2020. Mankind has faced one of the biggest challenges in recent times in the face of COVID-19 pandemic. But every challenge brings an opportunity. The prevailing situation has catalyzed the technological developments and innovations which otherwise would have taken years to develop and implement. Needless to say, a new normal has come into effect and it has cast a big impact on the entire project supply chain. So delegates, in next 1.5 hours, you are going to witness an engaging interactive session on World Beyond 2020. Our esteemed panelists are going to review the transformation trends in various infrastructure and construction technologies and solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor and privilege for me to introduce you to today's distinguished speakers, Mr. Manish Bhartia of CD Asia, Mr. P.L. Muthusekkar of Drivesystems, Mr. Raj Lakhani of PERI India, Mr. Dattatreya Joshi of Ecoki Power Tools India, and Mr. Ratan Lal Kashraf of GR Infra Projects. He will be joining us shortly. Mr. Murlidhar Shenai of Huntsman Advanced Materials and Prabha Kumar of Ridra Shekhavishek Enterprises Limited could not join us due to some technical issues. We will try to connect them in due course. So delegates, sit back and witness a thought-provoking session. Artificial sand, also called manufactured sand or crushed sand, has emerged as a substitute to reverse sand. However, there are many misconceptions about artificial sand and their usages. Today we have Mr. Manish Bhartia with us to clarify the misconceptions about artificial sand. Mr. Manish is the MD and promoter of CD Asia Limited and has spent most of his professional life pursuing innovative enterprises. The new inventions by his company are helping preserve life of vanishing natural resources and repurposing waste to construction materials. In a short span of 14 years, Manish has steered CD Asia from a promising startup to a dominant industry player and has provided the industry breakthrough solutions for meeting their massive sand demand. So welcome, Mr. Manish.
So before I speak on artificial sand, which looks very artificial, why the sand has to be artificial when sand is supposed to be a natural product coming out of rivers? So what is astonishing, guys, first to understand, what I would like to highlight today is first let us understand why this sand problem exists. How did we get here? So first of all, we should, this is the opening statement I'm trying to make in order for you to understand the issues of sand shortages, is that sand is the most used resource on planet Earth. Many of us do not know this, but it is the most used resource on planet Earth after air and water. So only air and water is used more than sand, not the coal, not oil, not energy, but it's sand. Sand is used in every day as a part of our life. Whatever, when you see a building, I see sand. So that's the difference in the outlook. It is also the third highest, third largest crime in the world. I would say the revenue coming from illegal sand mining is the third biggest crime in the world. These are all United Nations data. And you will also be astonished that India needs about 900 million tons of sand every year in order to grow at the level we are growing. And at the current level, we are only consuming about 150 kilos of sand per person compared to the Western world, which consumes in an average about 500 kilos per person. So if you see the difference, if we try to develop for sort of American dream, we would require 4x of the sand that we are using today, even at the current rate of growth. Now, this sand is not available in the rivers to that extent. Even now, if you try to extract this much sand from the rivers, there will be consequences on our human lives. So this is why now the government of India has taken a proactive step to ban the extraction of natural sand from the rivers, illegal extraction of natural sand. So only they're allowing pockets of the areas where there is a high sand deposit, and it can be taken out safely, that they are allowing. But all the illegal sand mining has been, you can say, banned by the Supreme Court or the National Green Tribunal. Now, you can also imagine that you would say that sand, uh, for a layman, the sand is all around us. You see deserts and deserts in Rajasthan, in other places in the world. Why can't that sand be used? Or if you go to the sea, below the sea water, on the seabed, there are tons and tons of sand available. But unfortunately, this sand cannot be used. This sand is basically unusable in concrete. Say for example, the desert sand, it has been, the shape of the sand is very important for making concrete. You can't build a concrete on, say, uh, marbles. These sand looks, if you put it under microscope, it will look like a marble, a piece of marble, round marble, spherical marble, on which the concrete strength cannot be built. So what is needed is a jarred surface or a cubical surface which can stick together. It's like a puzzle. You need to stitch it together. You can't build a house on marbles, right? You need to have blocks that will stick together. Similarly, sand is classified into, by technologists, uh, each sand is classified into a different use. And unfortunately, desert sand or sea sand cannot be used uh, as of now. So we have to look for alternatives, and this is what our company does. So in essence, our company focuses on preserving life of the vanishing natural resources of the planet, and say, how can we give a clean environment solution to the planet? And how can we escape this ever deepening crisis of sand shortages? So we started in India about 2007, taking experience from the global markets. We introduced something what is called as an artificial sand. As a layman terms, and I'm coming to the subject now, that we introduced something called artificial sand, or in technical terms, it is called manufactured sand. So what nature, earth does in the rivers. So how is sand produced? If you go back to that, a big piece of rock, it gets dislodged from the mountains and it rolls in the river, and it gets crushed into small granules step by step. In, say, hundreds of years, from a big rock, this becomes tiny pieces of rock, which becomes what you call is sand. The same process we do by using machines. So we take a large piece of rock, crush it down to smaller particles, but more importantly, the process after that is to then scientifically grade it, sort it out into different fractions, remove all the finer or ultra fine material from that, and finally present to the builder community, and they use this sand then to make concrete. Uh, and this sand, by the way, you'll be surprised to know that this sand is stronger. This sand can be beneficial for the builder in terms of cost, both in terms of cement cost, lowering their cost of concrete, as well as it itself is a cheaper option than the river sand at the moment, the way the shortages of river sand are. But then that's not all. So that's the one process that we follow to make sand, is using the rocks. The other process is even more attractive. What we do is we take all the building waste. So we say that, look, all this construction you're doing, ultimately this, you have to redevelop it or improve it, or even during the new construction, you generate a lot of waste. You dig up earth to build your metro rails in the cities, you build tall buildings in the cities. How do you do that? You demolish a few buildings, you generate some waste, and this is a big resource in the cities. A city like Delhi will generate typically 5 to 7,000 tons of waste every single day. And that is a cause of your air pollution, one of the causes of air pollution. Those mountains of waste, any city you go, you'll see a mountain of waste lying in the outskirts. We take that as a resource, convert them into sand. That's the one of the things our company does, is We have the technology, patented technologies that can convert that waste material into resources. So it's a circular economy. You now give back to the industry the same thing you took from the nature, use it in the construction. Now you demolish, use it back again in the construction. Why do you have to waste it? So that's the number two. And number three is there is also enough for ages. If you see the dams, lakes, ports, etc., you have a natural process of siltation of these water bodies. The depth of the dams have decreased because sand over the time has been accumulated there. We need to dig out those and use that a resource. Again, that is now sometimes wasted, thrown away. But we are showing the government now how you can use that dredge material and convert them into useful resources like construction sand. So our company, to summarize, our company has now taken a target that through our initiatives, various initiatives, these are some of them, that by 2025, out of 900 million tons, we'll be substituting 100 million tons of sand through other means. And so, kind of giving a solution to the construction companies for less dependence on river sand or natural sand. At least 100 out of 900 million tons we will be able to deliver within 2025.
So our next speaker is Mr. P.L. Muthusekkar. Mr. Muthusekkar is the Managing Director at Nord Drivesystems India, has a demonstrated history of working in the gear industry with an overall experience of 33 years plus 9 years in Nord. He is an inspirational leader who tells stories that inspire action, while at the same time are grounded in financial information that levers the business. Today, he will talk about how drive technology is coping up with innovations and advancements in construction equipment. So welcome, Mr. Muthusekkar, sir.
Coming to the innovation story of Nord. Nord is a 56-year-old company started in Germany, and we are spread over close to 100 countries, and close to 38 countries we have our own subsidiaries, and another 52 countries we have it through our partners. So it's a single product global warranty. And when we talk of the innovation, especially in the drive technology, in the geared motors and gearboxes, it started with Unicase Design. I would like to split it from 80s because before 80 I don't have the history, but at least from 80 I can talk about it. 80, the whole decade of 80, we had developed and patented the Unicase Design. So Unicase Design means the entire housing comes in a single piece. So if it is in a single piece, the bore, concentricity, the parallelism, everything is machined in single setting of the machine. So what happens is you buy 1,000 gearboxes, all becomes alike, and there is no question of any difference. And in simple technology, if I have to tell, in mechanical engineering, less number of parts, less number of problems. So we try to avoid by virtual design. So that's what started as innovation in 80s. Then later we went into improvement in the lubrication. So that means you fit the gearbox with oil, and then later it has a long shelf life. It has a long working life, so that you don't need to change the oil frequently. There are some gearboxes which are designed for lifetime lubricant. So that's the kind of technology which evolved in the 90s. So this is close to 10 years. I think this was more dependent on the lubrication, FZG value, and bringing the better life for the gears, heat dissipation point of view. So all this was happening in the 90s. And in the 2000, I think it all started with more on efficiency part. So that's where we are coming with IE1, IE2, IE3. Today, the motor efficiencies we are talking, we even call it as a super efficiency, premium efficiency. So you get the maximum output for the power input. Like for example, I can tell you 1/3 of the power which is being produced in the world is being consumed by the drives. So then you can imagine that how much the drives and geared motors have to be efficient. And in the 2010 onwards, it came with more of automation, more of electronic, in terms of monitoring, in terms of sensing. Those kind of developments and innovation took place not only in our product, but of course in the across the competition also it happened. Later in if you talk of the last 10 years, it is more of remote monitoring. It is more of advanced automation. It is like intelligent product life cycle management, predictive maintenance. So these are the developments and these are the innovations took place in the last 10 years. And beyond also, it will be more of you will be able to operate the whole equipment through your mobile phone or your laptop or your all the gadgets. So that's the way the innovations are going on. Of course, in between all these innovations, we had the compactness, because the size of the equipment has to come down, the noise has to be reduced. So this all evolved during the period of last 30-40 years. So today we can even produce the gearboxes with less than 65 dB noise level. So that's aptly suitable for an airport or for a theater applications. We are one of the leading suppliers. Of course, in India, the theater concepts are different, not like opera in Europe or in Australia. So where a lot of activities happen in the theater, here it's more of a film world. So you don't come across that kind of requirements in India. So this is what innovations and developments took place in the gear industry. And Nord was one of the innovators. Patented various products, including presently we have a product called NSD Tough. NSD Tough means it's a Nord severe duty. So that means it is a corrosion proof. It is a scratch proof. It can be used even in a very, very severe atmospheric conditions. It could be a sub-zero temperature. It could be also in cold storages in much below 0 degree temperatures. It's also used in pickle industry or salt, even Haldirams or all the condiments what they are producing, where they use a lot of masalas and sprinkling. So the gear motor and the gearbox should not get corroded because it's an FDA regulations. So these are all kind of patented products Nord has, and we would be happy to bring all this to India and serve our customers.
So would you like to touch upon the areas like how a gear can play a critical role in when you talk about the total life cycle cost of construction equipment? So
construction equipment needs a rugged system. Basically, why I'm calling it as a rugged system is the kind of people who would be operating it. So we should also look at semi-skilled or not even skilled people, like Mr. Manish was mentioning about the artificial sand production. So the artificial sand production is happening across the country, and there is also a Supreme Court regulations that you should not use the river sand and you should use the manufactured sand, M sand they call. So that's where this all production takes place in various remote corner of our country. So when it comes there you need to give a product which is rugged, which is long life. There is a product life cycle management. Like for example, the gears has to be good DIN class accuracies. We call it as DIN class 5 or DIN class 6. So it runs a smooth operation, and even the oil change, it takes like for example a long life for the oil. It will be very difficult for a person to maintain it and remember it. Every 6 months, if you have to change the oil, then it becomes difficult for them. So that's what we take care in terms of construction industry. It could be even for material handling. It could be for conveyors. One is it should be a silent, smooth operation. And it all comes with how precision you produce the gears. Still, we import the gears from Germany, and we assemble it in India because we wanted to keep it so precision and so accurate. And we call it as a hammerless assembly. So that means we don't use a hammer in our assembly at all. And the oil seals, the kind of oil seals what we use. So these are all things which will useful for the construction industry for a long life.
With advancements in concreting technology, the concept of formwork systems has changed significantly. Today we have Mr. Raj Lakhani to explain some of the key emerging trends in formwork technology. Mr. Lakhani is the Managing Director at PERI India. He has pioneered the Indian operations of the global leader PERI in 2006. He has taken the lead role from inception to conception of PERI India by introducing the first ever system framework in the country. That was the huge achievement. So, welcome, Mr. Lakhani, sir.
I would start with the famous statement from Winston Churchill, who said that never waste a crisis. He said this in 1940, just after the World War II. And so my compliments to B2B for arranging this talk, because now it's time that we need to start focusing beyond 2020. The subject that I'm going to focus on is formwork. And when we talk of formwork, we obviously talk of concrete. And when we talk of concrete, we talk of construction. And when we talk of construction, we obviously talk of lifestyle. So talking about lifestyle, social, cultural, and professional, what have the lessons been learned by us, and what are we going to see in future? Are we going to see people working from home? Are we going to see a major exodus from the cities to smaller towns? And relatively, are we going to, what all can we expect in 2020? My firm belief is that we will be living in centuries the way we are. India is the only country in the world, as far as, or one of the few countries in the world where you can find a bullock cart and a Rolls Royce at the same traffic signal. There is no other country in the world. So we will always see a mix of living in centuries, which means that we might see a slight downfall in terms of commercial space because work from home will reduce. But having said that, work from home to an extent of 10, 20, 30% could be the maximum that is likely to happen. As a result of which, there would be a change in the segment. And talking of where we go from the segment, what happens when we are talking of moving from a segment where there will be less demand for commercial space, likely more demand for residential space, less availability of labor, and so consequently more demand for high technology. This is going to happen in all the spaces, all the equipment, including formwork. Talking about how we are going to be aligned with this is, I guess, at some point we have to start understanding the shift in the segment of commercial, where the building spaces in the commercial construction are activity slightly going to reduce. There is likely to be a growth in satellite towns. There is likely to be people wanting to work from remote places, not having to go to offices. This means that we will be most likely having satellite cities coming up. Satellite cities coming up, meaning there will be a more demand for infrastructure. So talking about world beyond 2020, I do not see any reduction in construction volume, particularly in India. In fact, I see an increase in the construction volume, and that is why we all need to gear up to this. At the moment, we are about 6-7 months into the pandemic, and we are seeing only 30 to 35% labor back at the job sites, which means, again, for talking about formwork, which means that we will have to adopt a system where there's a less requirement of labor and there is more automation. Now, when we have less labor, obviously the number of man hours available to us are less. Therefore, the systems that we have to design further has to be with more construction friendly parts, less number of parts, so that the man hours required are less. So that's a challenge which we're likely to have to design these systems and adjust our product portfolio accordingly. Talking about what are the trends, new trends coming in the world, likely to come in the world in 2020. I guess we all have seen 3D printing being used now, 3D printed houses being used in developed countries. This is again one more trend which is likely to come in the country very soon. Office complexes are going to be, wherever there is no possibility of working remotely, office complexes demand is going to be, area is going to be increasing, because there is going to be a social distancing norm prevalent for the foreseeable future, which again means that the construction methodology is likely to be adjusted to the demand. We probably are one of the few countries who still have a construction methodology of a beam slab construction, for example, compared to a flat slab construction. So there's a lot of interest in moving towards a flat slab construction to give faster output. So in that sense, the formwork technology also has to adjust to that, so that we have more systems where the cycle time is faster. We have more systems where the number of parts are less. We have more systems where labor requirement is less. And also talking about how we as a company, PERI, are going to be aligned to this. Yes, the need of the hour is to see the demographic changes that are likely to come with the population most likely moving in larger cities or in smaller cities, moving from larger cities to smaller cities, which means that the product portfolio has to be aligned to having spread out buildings, because everybody would need space. When there's a big demand for work from home, we are talking about to a lot of companies who are able to send their team members to work from home remotely, particularly IT companies and so on. Obviously, we will not expect them to travel from a remote distance. We as a company obviously are designing systems which would be suitable for these type of constructions where it is fast, less labor, more construction friendly, high technology, faster cycle time, and so on. I strongly believe that the volume of construction in the country is going to increase. There could be a shift from one segment to the other. There could be a slight shift from the commercial segment to the residential segment. Reduction in commercial space demand in the short term, and increase in the residential space demand in the long term. Consequently, increase in the demand for infrastructure in the immediate term, and also long term as well, because we as a country have to construct almost everything. We have to construct ports, airports, roads, hospitals, and so on. So the construction volume is definitely going to be increasing. We have a opportunity coming up, and a bigger opportunity coming up. So the need of the hour is to reinvent ourselves, and the need of the hour is to look beyond boundaries and also analyze the demography and the demand, and see what we can do to align our product portfolios to the future, which is coming along, by learning the lessons that we are learning from this current pandemic.
Yes, sir. Actually, we are people on the ground. So, since you work all India, so very localized problems now. I mean, when we work across, we find Calcutta is different, Andhra is different, your UP is different. So it's a big challenge for everybody. But honestly, we are learning this digital platform because we are an industry who is into making roads, airports, and railways. So I mean, honestly, we were not very equipped to this. But yeah, I mean, we had a digital drive when it comes to managing the business because with the way you are growing. But I mean, there's a good amount of learning. So I mean, the topic which you have given me is like, involving procurement process. So, I mean, If we look at the general, sir, the items which are we are very unorganized sector where you have a material which has to come from a crusher. So crusher is something which would be in a remote location, and the sector who is transporting it, they're very unorganized. So a lot of times it always becomes a challenge on you how you organize them, get them together. So possibly being a remote location, you have to live with them. Only thing is you have to ensure, optimize your system, how you keep your systems, aligned to the business requirements. So, sir, let me tell you, we already were into an ERP, SAP, platform. So almost all the business units and all the process functions have been integrated. We are planning to have a next level of, integration where you can say there would be a portal where vendor management has always been something like face to face, but gradually, the industry has to opt for a option where a vendors evaluation, vendors onboarding, vendors performance, vendors. The transparency, amount of transparency you can bring into the system, possibly that will give more confidence to all the business partners. And since the stakeholding is very high for each of the partners, so over a period of time, I think this is something there are a lot of such IT platforms which are available, which even industry like us are gradually opting to adopt them. So fine, possibly you'll not have one-stop solution for everything because of your industry, types where you're always struggling. So then second, what we see is the logistics issue, spread all across. So, I think last 6-7 months, it was a great challenge for every industry player where delivering the items or getting the items delivered. So, especially for our sector, what we did, get a concept of Amazon and Flipkart, where if these people see or place an order and they get it delivered to your doorstep committed. So now even we as a sector, because the requirement urgencies are quite frequent. So we have tied up with companies like TNT, we have tied up companies with Mahindra Logistics, where anybody who wants a service would go to an laptop, raise a service request like, gentlemen, this is where you have to pick the consignment, this is where it has to be delivered, and then you have an TAT also defined. So I think this is one system which was required, and these people always commit you, gentlemen, if this is the pin code, I'll get it delivered in 2 days, 48 hours or 36 hours. So this I find it has brought in a lot of values. Similarly, other logistics like all the full logistics where we have installed GPS systems, when the volume of bitumen which you get from the refineries, from the third parties, or even our own vehicles. So we have adopted that platform of GPS tracking where driver management and everything is adopted. So I think physically talking, tracing them, and trying to monitor them was actually getting very difficult for us. So this is something which we are honestly trying to more and more optimize, where a corporate dashboard or a management dashboard due course of time will be required, so that your communication regarding this at least issues doesn't happen. So this was one part, sir. Then getting couriers, physical invoices and all, it was also a big challenge for us. So we are opting for the digital invoices, where a consignment is done, and then all the vendors are advised, gentlemen, you can create a digital invoice where everybody on the system gets, and there is no follow-up, nothing like that, and which has a legal acceptance also. And I'm sure this invoicing will gradually mitigate a lot of our issues we face in terms of mismatch, in terms of non-fulfillment of GST. And it's a bit day in, day out my challenge for me, because the volume of procurement and the type of procurement and the type of vendors you deal in has been very huge. So I think this digital space should help us over a period of time where we can actually see something good happening. But honestly, today, what we feel, I mean, there is a long way to go. I mean, even today, the volume of equipments we buy, I mean, the criteria which we put in with every vendor today is, gentlemen, what is the, I mean, the platform where you have where I can have a digital, look like Manish Saab is there. I mean, now of late when they offer us anything, they say, gentlemen, in a laptop, you can have a look on what your machine is doing. If there is a fault, you can have a self-diagnostic system, and then somebody need not always go to the site and get it repaired. I mean, somebody on a phone can advise them, or somebody on a video call advise them and get it rectified. So I think this will be very important when it comes to my criteria of selecting any equipment when I buy. But otherwise, sir, I mean, in general, what we feel, the satisfaction which you have in meeting and discussing and finalizing, I mean, that one-to-one touch, I mean, definitely that is a miss today, because the amount of risk which you're carrying is very high. So I'm sure, I mean, all these options which are being offered as a platform to handle your business will definitely, I mean, add on to our business controls.
Mr. Dattatreya Joshi with us. He will talk on impact of COVID-19 on power tools market. Mr. Joshi is the Executive Director and Secretary at Hikoki Power Tools India, a Japanese joint venture company and a multinational giant based in Bangalore, with turnover of around rupees 300 crore. He is serving Hikoki Power Tools India for the last 24 years as a member of top management. Welcome, Mr. Joshi.
The subject world beyond 2020 is quite apt, that too, after this COVID-19. And certainly this is a right time to discuss about this particular subject. And let me just give you, for those, the audience who are not very much conversant with the power tools. Actually, power tools is basically used in the all types of general applications in the construction sector, engineering, and automobile, and the wood industry. Basically, the application is basically grinding, cutting, and polishing, breaking, drilling, those kind of things. For a general application, for the predominantly in the construction sector and also the automobile and the engineering sector. And the size of this industry, power tool industry in India, is about 4,000 crores. I'm just giving a brief before going further to to my topic, which is the impact of COVID-19 on the power tool market. That is my subject today. But before that, I just want to take few minutes. The size of this power tool industry in India is about 4,000 crores, and predominantly it is 50% of this industry is dominated by the multinational companies and the branded products, and remaining half is unbranded Chinese products. And the growth of this industry is about 7%. Maybe, which is generally the power tool industry growth is more than the GDP growth in the country over a period of last 2 decades. And we, Hikoki Power Tools in India, this is established about 24 years back. Prior to, say about 3 years before, this company or this brand was Hitachi Power Tools. We were part of Hitachi Group. We were belonging to Hitachi Group. Because of certain reconstruction in Hitachi Group, this particular vertical has been carved out of Hitachi Group, and now we have rebranded as Hikoki Power Tools globally. Now the April was total shutdown. It was total shutdown, and none of us, no players in power tools business could do anything. And for that matter, power tool industry, is a proxy of the general industry, because our products are used in every industry. So that is the reason whatever happens to other industry, it happens to for us also. So in the month of April, it was totally shut down, and thereafter slowly, we have been recovering. Power tool business is increasing in India, and they say month on month there is a recovery. Q1, it may be about caught was just about 25% of the normal business, because of the first month was zero, and Q2 was almost about 80%. And we are quite confident that by Q3 things will come to normalcy, and thereafter maybe Q4 onwards, okay, there is going to be growth. So month on month, okay, there is the improvement in the recovery of in the power tool business. And the challenges during the COVID-19 or even thereafter also, even thereafter from May onwards or even now also, the supply chain management, because the end to end, the managing the end to end it was a big challenge for us, because once if the market is open, our suppliers were not open. If market and suppliers both were open, maybe sometimes there was a labor issue. So a combination of all these things, the supply chain and the end-to-end, the connectivity was a big challenge for us. And not only that, reaching our stakeholders. It could be our the dealers or the retail dealers or the customers. Reaching them was a big challenge for us, because even though some of our retail dealers wanted to visit, we could not visit because of so many problems, lockdown and all. But we have not stopped our operations. But what we did, we did use the technology in a great way in reaching our dealers and all the stakeholders, by virtue of maybe the video conferencing and those kind of things. We have used extensively in order to reach and mitigate the problems of the COVID-19. This is what we did it during the month of maybe once we opened up in the month of May. Even now also, even today also, there is you all know that there is a limited transit of people and the material. So especially transit of the people, we are making use of the technology. But now that we have reached almost about 80% of our normal business, or even more than that. And Q3 and Q4, we are quite confident, we are quite bullish about the coming months. It's all ultimately, of course, depending upon the recovery of the various industries, as I mentioned earlier, and especially the construction sector. The construction sector, interestingly, even though there is a lot of problems were there in the initial stages in the month of May, June, and July, but thereafter, there's a good progress in the construction sector, especially, and demand has picked up. Demand is picked up a lot. And there was initially a labor problem because of the migrant workers, but now most of the laborers are back, and it's being operated. Maybe availability of laborers are almost about 60-70% now. Even the execution level is also beyond maybe 70 to 80%. So because of this, a lot of developers, the construction developers, both residential as well as the commercial buildings, lot of developers have started coming out with the new launches and all. This is certainly a good progress, and certainly it will help all the suppliers for the construction sector like us, or all the people, all the stakeholders depending upon the construction sector are going to be benefited. Recovery in the auto sector, as you all know that last year was a dull year for the auto sector, but this year there's a good progress, especially after the lockdown, opening of the unlocking of lockdown. It was really good improvement in the auto sector. And you all know that passenger vehicles and the two-wheelers have almost they have surpassed. They're operating more than 100% now. Tractor business is almost about 50% up. Only the exception is the commercial vehicle sector, which is still in a sluggish situation. And even the engineering industry is also progressing rapidly. Lot of rural demand is picking up now. There's a spurt in rural demand, especially B and C cities, because most of the demand, even in the auto sector also, is coming from B and C cities and the rural sector. Even for our products also, B and C cities is picking up faster. The challenges for power tool industries as a whole, I should mention about the less infrastructure spending by government. Government should spend more money for the infrastructure. So otherwise, there will not be demand for the general activity. There will not be spurt in the general activity. And secondly, there is a lack of capital expenditure and the capacity expansion by the private sector people. Because private sector industry, private sector people, they are just doing wait and watch kind of situation, because they are already sitting on the excess capacity. They do not want to invest on the expansion of their capacity at present. And the another challenge for the power tool industry is basically the cheap imports from especially from China. And the another situation is the MSME, because even though there is a general good amount of recovery has happened last couple of months, but the MSME is still struggling, mainly for the finance, for their cash flows, liquidity and all. Of course, Government of India has announced about 3 lakhs crores of the special scheme for MSME sector, financing the MSME sector.
One of the lessons that we have learned is, one of the panelists also mentioned, in addition to what I did, was about the migration of labor. This phenomenon is going to be meaning that the shortage of labor, which is in the construction industry, is going to increase. Therefore, all technologies which are used in construction have to be less and less dependent on labor, because availability is going to decrease. So that is one major impact I see going forward. Another major impact is the segments I mentioned about. There could be a temporary move from commercial space demand to increase in residential space demand. When people do not need to go to the office to sit in front of a computer, they would rather move to their remote places or hometowns and work from there. So demand on commute is likely to decrease, but at the same time, satellite towns are likely to increase. So that's the second major shift that I see. And the third major shift again I see is adjusting the product portfolio, because when you are looking at segments, when you're looking at labor shortage, you obviously need to adjust your product portfolio. So these are the 3 major consequences I see. Also, there was a discussion on investment in infrastructure. This, of course, is a topic. I mean, we as a country know, and I think the government has already taken a lot of steps. The construction volume and the investment in infrastructure is going to increase. There is no way out of that, because we need that for the country's progress, and we need that for the country to go forward. So that's my opinion on these things.
Sir, I'm a techno-commercial man, so I'll just brief you what we foresee, sir. Over a period of time, one is digital transformation has to happen in the industry, where people have to rely on that and people have to move towards that, so that there has to, a bit of, you cannot always have that connect and that, virtual, physical meetings happening. So this has to happen. In this digital transformation, so it will be more of your process digitization. It could be your communication platforms where companies are already working. Today, we talk of our company, we have an IT head at a senior level, so we see the importance of that particular field. So to match the industry requirements, to maintain a benchmark worldwide, you need to be on that space. Second great thing which I see, sir, the B2B integration, which is supposed to happen now. There are a lot of business to business. Like today, if I talk of volumes which is being dealt with companies, like if almost I buy a good volume of bitumen, HST, cement, steel. If I talk of my annual buy, it is quite high. So now we are honestly in the process of integrating the systems where it is hassle-free. Systems like auto biogeneration, system like auto GRN, it has to happen, sir. so that your human intervention, your manual intervention, it's diluted, so that your processes, your business speed, your decision making gets more faster, rather than people centric or people specific dependent. So today, if my ERP system, I have a mobile app today, so nothing is pending at my level. Even I'm sitting for a cup of tea, and if anything is urgent, I need not open a laptop and do something. Even if I'm driving a car, I have to give those business decisions. So people, the decision makers are always online, they're always live. So they did not find a very special time and look at it. I mean, wherever they are, and they can give those decisions, because this is a business requirement today, sir. So this is where I think is go. Secondly, sir, when it comes to the methodology, especially the construction methodologies, because if you talk of the type of activities which happen in any project site, whether it is road, bridges, your railways, I mean, the type of activities we have. So we are gradually trying to adopt such a mechanized process and the automations. If I have to do a 300-kilometer of boundary wall, I cannot have some labor contractor, 100 of them, and doing those castings. So those automation process has to happen, sir, because we cannot rely, because this is something which is a lifetime experience for us, and everybody has to learn. I mean, a lot of speakers spoke on that, and considering this learning experience, we are trying to transform and consider those points where it actually brings value to your business, whether it is operation part or decision making.
Right. Let me amplify what Kashyap ji just said. Is that first of all, we have to start using technology into our lives, weaving our technology into our day-to-day lives. So, for example, I'm a great fan of video conferencing or this mode of communication. I think another revelation in the world has happened due to COVID, is that what happened when the emails came in is what is happening now. This is a replacement of an email. You can pick up and do a lot of more things on a 1 hour call than you would probably do in a week of emails. So this is a fantastic medium, and I think we should not run away from it. We should adopt it more into, and of course, you can't overdo anything. Even emails doesn't give you the results that you desire. Human to human contact is necessary, but it's a great medium to connect. So then I would say then the role of technology also expands to making the lives easier for stakeholders. So for example, we have integrated technology into our systems. We were one of the first companies in our industry to adopt that and really provide real-time monitoring systems for our customers to be able to get a feel of what is happening at their project sites, get a real-time data and control and integration with their existing softwares. So if tomorrow Kashyap ji wants to say that I want to see what sand I have produced, and by the way, they are one of our biggest customers. So it's good to hear that he acknowledges the role of technology and how they are looking now to integrate. If they are looking to integrate, say, for example, sand coming to their project site, it can be done. So that's the future, I would say, beyond 2020. That's one of our main missions. The other part I would like to highlight is the sustainable part. As you said, that sand, how do we look forward? The construction is at the boom at the moment. I would believe so that this year the amount of road contracts is the highest ever in our history being awarded. I mean, at least the NHI website says that. Kashyap ji, you can confirm or not confirm, but the data what we see is that government is flat out putting money into infrastructure. What happens to natural resources then? Are we prepared to then have enough supplies of sand in place in a sustainable manner? This is a process. I would not be able to kind of give an answer immediately in terms of the volume that is required. However, as I said, as a company, we are prepared to offer 100 million tons of sand every year versus the 900 million tons of sand requirement in the country. Manufactured sand industry, it's very disheartening that a major part of manufactured sand is unprocessed. It's not following a particular manufacturing process, and people are shortchanging you and providing a simple household builder will not know what is a good sand, what is a bad sand. So that is something needs to be standardized, and we are doing we are announcing very soon in next quarter or so, we should be ready with our new offering to the market, where we are going to standardize we're going to attempt to standardize the sand market. So we are bringing out new platforms where we would be able to service the sand users in a way that they can identify what is the right sand, what is the sand should be, and how we can bring them that sand at the lowest possible cost. And the last bit is, which some of the panelists also mentioned, is financing. So now look, financing for SME has always is been in trouble ever since the Yes Bank, ILFS, etc. happened. If you remember, last year was even worse when all these banks started to collapse. The entire NBFC was out of business in a way. So then they were kind of given more money, etc. But the funds have not come to the market. So you have to be inventive, I would say, as a manufacturer of equipment. Besides the solutions that we offer, we are also a manufacturer of capital goods, and it faces the same trouble as the other manufacturers. And I would say one of the we have to be inventive about financing. This is not coming back soon. So what we have done is we have started our own financing division as a car company would. So what we have done is we have come out with brilliant solutions for our, multiple solutions for our customers, which is first in the industry. We say, okay, don't buy the equipment, take it on a toll from us. Some of the companies are over leveraged, or they do not want, as a good practice, they do not want debt on their books at all. They don't want to leverage their books anymore. So in those cases, they just say that, okay, I want to make a road. I want to do 20 kilometers or 200 kilometers. This is the BOQ. This is the amount of sand I want. You come and produce it for me. Take every ton of material, just charge me every ton of material that is produced by you. Instead of me owning the asset, you look after the asset, you own the asset, you look after it, you operate for me and give me a sustainable supply of material. So we have started that division as well. And these are the things that, we'll have to look inside more than relying on the government policies or when the market will come back, when the economy will come back. I said beyond 2020, we got to look into what can we do inside rather than outside. Yeah.
Mr. Anirudh Mundra is asking, it's in the same line. There are mixed reports about manufactured sands being not as good as river sand for concrete. Is it true? So that's actually we have already demystified that, but would you like to address that once again?
Yeah, briefly, I would say that this is a misconception. I would say that we have testimonials from customers who would say that they would prefer to use a manufactured sand more than the river sand for two reasons. One is it is more cost effective in terms of the cost of river sand is much higher. One. Number two is the availability of sand or the source of, can you say that river sand is ethically sourced? Can somebody confirm that it has been ethically sourced? It's hard to say. It's all murky business there. So companies who are responsible companies don't want to get into unethical sourcing of sand. So they prefer to manufacture their own sand. And if they do it in the right way, if they do using the right technologies, this sand has proven to be saving cost rather than the other way around. So it is a superior alternative as long as you follow the process of manufacturing it correctly. And sadly enough, as I said earlier, that many people have taken shortcuts, and these shortcuts are creating these kind of misconceptions in the market. So wait for us. One of our offering would be to standardize sand, and once that happens, when the other company starts picking up that, then every common man will understand what a sand bag, a 50 kilo bag should look like. If I get a 50 kilo cement, I'm sure it meets a quality. Can I say that for sand? No, not today. So Kashyapji, can I request you to help me on answering this better. As a user, you can.
See, what happens, Manish? When it comes to availability, because if you are somewhere close to a river sand and then it is easily available, people definitely always opt for that and prefer that. And a lot of times it becomes a challenge on the appetite to have that equipment, because the moment you decide to buy something good, you need to have an appetite, capex appetite to own that. And subsequently, I think you have a bigger role, sir, because everywhere where we get, almost all India working today. So we see that challenge, and today when you have an operation maintenance which has to last for 10 years, so you cannot have an inferior quality road done or a structure done. So you have to make good roads, and to make good roads you need good sand, sir. So yes, there has to be some amount of standardization, but since a lot of times it becomes a localized supply, so having a control at a central level always becomes a challenge for us. But otherwise, yeah, it is mandatory, sir, to have some amount of standardization.
I just wanted to touch upon the way forward for the power tool industry in particular. Maybe we see there will be a lot of local production, because most of the multinational companies have already have a setup plant in India, and they are going to increase their local production because of so many other import restrictions and those kind of things. We also see a lot of demand increase in line with the general economic growth. That is how in the coming months it is going to be the order of the day. There will be certainly demand will come back to the normalcy, and the market is also going to expand, and all the existing players, who are the market leaders in India, they are going to bring a lot of because the technology that is going to be the order of the day. So technology is going to play a major role in the coming years, and as it is the in power tool business, the lot of shift is happening from the corded tool to cordless tools. It's a battery products. So that is going to be, that's going to ease the so life of the users, and also the maybe earlier the conventional way of reaching the customers and the reaching the stakeholders. I think it's going to switch. We are going to switch over to the digital way in future. So this is our the way forward for as far as maybe our industry is concerned.
See, it's going to be more of automation, and it's going like for example, the building blocks or even laying of bricks. It could start from a mini automation to a mega automation. That's where we are ready with Industry 4.0 products. So that means Industry 4.0 products means that one machine can talk to another machine, one geared motor can talk to another geared motor. So that we are ready with the Industry 4.0 products, and we are already selling it in India, basically for the conveyor industry, for the crane industry. Of course, we have started on a testimonial with the construction industry also. Some of our major customers have started using the decentralized drives. Decentralized drives is nothing but electrical, mechanical, and electronics. All three are put together. So it's a mechatronic equipment, a single equipment which can suffice the purpose. So you don't need a long cable, you don't need a control panel. So everything is locally mounted, and it also can be remotely monitored right from start, stop, and also periodic maintenance can be done through this decentralized drives.
As we speak, we are setting up our own manufacturing plant near Pune, in Talegaon near Pune. And that's, of course, at the moment, slight delay because of obviously this pandemic. But what we have done is we have set up a R&D center in India, which is a satellite R&D center of Germany. And at the moment, we are manufacturing 98% of our systems out in Germany, and of course, 2 other plants. But going forward, this is going to be one of the biggest manufacturing plants for PERI. So this will be focused on designing systems for the markets like India, and so systems which would be designed, prototyped, and manufactured in India. So this will obviously result in optimization of cost, because manufacturing in India will have its own advantages. So we are focusing on the Make in India initiative. We are focusing on also as a Indian arm of a German company on the Atmanirbhar, being Atmanirbhar as well. So manufacturing in India, designing in India for India. So that's going to bring up another big revolution for not only for us as PERI, but also for the system formwork industry in the country.
So one of the developments that we have done in recent times is we have introduced remote monitoring systems, intelligent remote monitoring systems into our products. What it does, it measures the important parameters that will be useful for the customers, and relays those information in form of graphs and data to a command center. So we have established command centers like a control room, like a police control room. You have a command center where people are sitting there analyzing the data produced from the equipment that is being used on the project sites, and then give predictive maintenance and preventive maintenance services to our clients. So what a customer typically would do not want is breakdowns in their plant, and to receive reliable data about the from his project site. So these all can happen through use of technology. And further going along, as I said, that once we are getting into the platforms that can standardize the quality of sand, etc., we can assist. We'll be able to assist Kashyap ji, for example, if he's doing a project in south of India in a particular place, we could try to integrate one of the sand production sites to be able to supply a certain quality of sand through the platform. So we are trying to integrate the entire sand production of 100 million tons that is going on through CD technology in the country, and try to integrate and assist builders and construction companies to enjoy that without having to spend on the capex. So this is one of the services that we are contemplating, which we think might help.
Just to add to what Manish have said, I mean, we are with phase 2 where any data which comes out from the plant, it directly talks to my ACP system. If 1,000 ton of sand is produced in a day, the data is straight away pushed to my ACP. So there is no interference. So it is seamless, So any hassle of any distortion in between in getting the data entries done, even to an extent, if there is a fault or if there is a breakdown, it is recorded to my equipment module. So my and the team has a central repository and an information. Gentlemen, this is a plant, this is the CSR number, where has this problem. So you need to attend to, apart from what dashboard they have. So this is the next phase, which we are honestly looking for. And all the equipments apart from CD Asia, which Manish has already spoken about.
Do you feel we are Atmanirbhar enough in case the situation in the LAC escalates more so because of the Chinese imports we utilize in the construction and infrastructure segment? Do you feel that we can meet the requirement domestically?
Yes, I mean, apart from a very small quantity of, if I talk of the formwork industry per se, apart from a very small quantity of formwork which could be imported from China, there is hardly anything. And when I say that, it would be in the range of less than 10%, which is being imported today from China. So the impact is going to be negligible on the formwork industry, because as such, the current industry is being catered to from us, like from Germany or also from India, because we have certain licensed manufacturers in India, and we command in the system formwork, we command more than 60% of the market share. So we know that it's going to be a negligible impact. And going forward with more manufacturing and more licensed manufacturing happening in India, it is going to be very negligible.
I would like to take this opportunity to confirm this, that we are completely Atmanirbhar in a way that we have zero supply of any Chinese parts into our equipment or services. So absolutely we are spot on when the government of India is now moving to Atmanirbhar Bharat, and we see that this is only going to help the industry further down. So we are one of the companies who had taken that initiative a few years back and indigenized all our supply lines, and absolutely never we have used and never we will use any Chinese part Just out of national pride, I'm saying that.
Yes, we are already doing localization. Current localization is about close to around 25%.
Correct.
Yes, way forward, we have plans to take it to a level of somewhere around 40%. And I know the government condition says that if you have a localization or the value addition of up to 50%, then you come under the L1 category. And then if it is less than 30% or 25%, then you come under L2 category. So we are having a roadmap for that. So first we will reach the 25-30% in almost all the products. Then we will migrate to the L1 level. I wanted to tell a few things on the world beyond 2020. I have prepared some points like one of the thing which is required is today you need to do a lot of communication. I think which you are already doing it for the people in terms of what is going to happen and what are the new technologies. I think the right thing which B2B is doing. Second is I think every industry and every company, every person needs to revisit the fundamentals and look back and maybe re-strategize for their particular business. Of course, Mr. Kashyap and Mr. Manish mentioned about the finance. Also the digitalization they mentioned. So finance management, microfinance management, and a lot of control, which is going to help. Digitalization is going to be the way forward. I think the world is not going to be the same again, maybe after a year or two, it may take. Until then, digitalization is the best way. I think many of our panel co-panelists mentioned this. So that is the way to take forward. Last point, what I want to tell is no business school has taught us that if the business goes down for 6 months or it goes to zero, then how to bring back. I think no business schools are, no teachings have been there or no learnings have been there. So that's where I think this COVID has taught us, like if the business goes down for 6 months or 3 months or 4 months in a complete lockdown, so how to bring back. I think this is a good learning. In future, I think we all need to be prepared. We need to be prepared for this kind of things in anticipation. I think that is a better method than a reactive method.
Delegates, we hope you have enjoyed it. Before wrapping up today's session, we would like to thank our distinguished panelists, Mr. Manish Bhartia of CD Asia, Mr. P.L. Muthusekkar of Drivesystems, Mr. Raj Lakhani of PERI India, Mr. Ratanlal Kashyap of GR Infrastructure, and Mr. Dattatreya Joshi of Hikoki Power Tools India. I would also like to thank my colleague Mr. Prasad Nair for his support. So thanks to all the delegates and viewers. So that's the end of today's session. I request you to stay tuned for more such sessions. Thank you and goodbye. Jai Hind.